Do- Donald Trump thinks that the Jewish people owe him, which they don't. They don't owe him a fucking goddamn thing. But Trump, Netanyahu, and Israel, the orange man baby, embarrasses us all over again, which he always does on a daily basis. Um, Now, like I said, Trump thinks the Jewish people owe him, which they don't owe him a fucking thing, and he's bigly mad that Netanyahu wouldn't back Trump's big lie in 2020. Now, it seems like only yesterday that when the then squatter Donald Trump appeared before the Republican Jewish coalition, and he referred to Benjamin Netanyahu as your prime minister, despite the fact that Netanyahu is not prime minister of the United States. He's prime minister of the country that he lives in. Um, Despite the fact that, by definition, everyone there was an American and not Israeli, it wasn't a slip of the tongue. But it was lamenting the fact that American Jews tend to vote more often for Democrats. Now, in the same speech, Trump proclaimed that voting for them again would cripple our country and very well could leave Israel out there all by yourselves, and then suggested that maybe you could explain that to some of your people who say, "Oh, we don't like tariffs." Um, Now, this was happening at the same time as Representative Ilhan Omar, who was a Democrat from Minnesota, was under fire from the right for suggesting that some American Jews have dual loyalties, but somehow Trump didn't hear any condemnation from his fellow Republicans. Now, Ilhan Omar was excoriated for tweeting that the Israel lobby was all about the Benjamins, but when Trump told a Jewish audience during the 2016 campaign that you're not going to support me because I don't want your money, that didn't cause the GOP to gasp in horror. As usual, if Trump says it must be okay, so if Trump says it has to be okay, which it's not. Now, let's note that Ilhan Omar apologized in both instances. Trump has never apologized for a fucking thing in his goddamn miserable fucking life that he's ever existed in. Now, it has always griped that Trump it has always griped Trump that Jewish Americans didn't vote for him in large numbers, since in his mind he believes he has delivered for them, that he's delivered more for them than any leader in the history of the world, which he has not. He tasked his son-in-law Jared Kushner with solving all the problems in the Middle East, which he apparently believed he'd done by moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem and signing the Abraham Accords, which was a diplomatic normalization agreement between Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. But in 2020, nearly 7 out of 10 Jewish people voted for Joe Biden. And that's not a huge fucking surprise because Jewish voters have generally supported Democrats ever since pollsters first started tracking the Jewish votes in 1916. That's not to say that there haven't been plenty of visible and influential Jewish Republicans, but in terms of overall voting patterns, the Democrats have been the political home for the vast majority of American Jewish people. But but in recent years, Israel has become a top tier issue for Republicans, and not so much because they care deeply about the fortunes of the Israeli people or the future of the Middle East, because they don't. Although some undoubtedly do, but no, they really don't. They are interested in Israel largely because the single most loyal faction of Republican voters, conservative evangelical Christians, are obsessed with it. Um, Now, what the Washington Post's Philip Bump reported, a poll by Lifeway Research, um, had founded that 80% of evangelicals believed that the creation of Israel in 1948 was a fulfillment of biblical prophecy that would bring about Christ's return, even though Christ does not exist. Pastor Nate Powell explained how that is supposed to work in simple terms. Now, what kickstarts the end times into motion is Israel's political boundaries being reestablished to what the invisible ferryman promised the Israelites, according to what the Bible stated. Um, Now, the evangelical base loves Trump more than any other squatter ever, but not because he shares their beliefs. Because he really doesn't. And it isn't just because he signed off on the Federalist Society and endorsed Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade. They really love him for moving the embassy to Jerusalem, which they see as the first step toward Israel rebuilding the Jewish temple and the Temple Mount, which is understood as a necessary precursor to the end times as prophesied in the book of Revelation. Now, needless to say, Trump doesn't understand any of this, or even fucking cares for that matter, but someone told him that other presidents or squatter didn't have the guts to move the embassy, so he did. Um, But that move, along with withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal negotiated by Barack Obama, definitely gave him credibility with the right-wing Jews and the Israeli government, and Trump seemed to have a love fest with Netanyahu throughout most of his squatting, and then things went downhill from there. It was reported earlier that Trump believed that Netanyahu had upstaged him at a White House event and used the opportunity to campaign for himself, but he was extremely angry that Netanyahu congratulated Joe Biden after the latter's 2020 election victory, reportedly saying that Netanyahu was very early, like earlier than most. I haven't spoken to him since then. Fuck him. That's what Trump said. Trump believed that he had been instrumental in Netanyahu's electoral victory, which Trump tries to, whenever somebody succeeds, Trump tries to claim that he was the one responsible, even though if he wasn't. Israel has had so many recent elections, it's hard to keep track, and wanted him to refuse to acknowledge that Biden had won. So basically, even though Biden won, Trump wanted Netanyahu to refuse to acknowledge it. But later on, Trump told Barack Rabid, whose book Trump's Peace to Abraham Accords and the Reshaping of the Middle East chronicles the Trump-Netanyahu relationship, and that the congratulatory video was the main reason Netanyahu lost his next election. That hurt him badly with the people of Israel. Trump said, no. Trump is not very popular anywhere. Trump likes to think that he's popular, but he's not. So it's no surprise. It's not a surprise that during a Trump Klan rally in Florida last week, the ex-squatter aired his grievances against Netanyahu in the immediate aftermath of the catastrophic Hamas attack on Israel in the early stages of what's likely to be a protracted war in Gaza. It's not like we haven't seen shockingly bellicose rhetoric from U.S. political leaders in recent days, but at least our comments related to vital matters at hand, with thousands of people killed on both sides and news about atrocities and the war crimes running on television 24/7. Early in his Florida speech, Trump shouted Barack Hussein Obama about a half a dozen times for no particular fucking reason whatsoever. Now, it's an oldie but a goodie, I guess. He shared a previously untold anecdote, which he admitted might be classified information about the January 2020 assassination of Iranian General Soleimani, saying, "I'll never forget that Netanyahu let us down. He criticized Israel for its intelligence failures and called Israel's defense minister a fucking jerk for wanting Hezbollah, the Iranian-supported militia in Lebanon, not to attack Israel from the north. Now, Hezbollah was very smart, he said, and that would clue them in that Israel was weak in that region. Now, given the history, it seems extremely likely that Israel and Hezbollah know a lot about each other's strengths and weaknesses." Then he recycled his inane anger at Netanyahu for congratulating Biden, and proclaimed if the election wasn't rigged, then there would be nobody even thinking about going into Israel. Trump, like we said before, the fucking election wasn't rigged. Get the fuck over it. You fucking lost. Nobody wanted you. The Israeli government was not amused by any of this. Communications Minister Karhi said, "We don't have to bother with the nonsense that Trump's views. If only that were true here as well." In Congress, where Republicans continued to turn the U.S. government into a ludicrous and dysfunctional spectacle by staging one tantrum after another, there isn't much blowback to Trump's bizarre and ill-timed comments, and they were all a bunch of fucking cowards, as usual. Now, there are fault lines within both parties on this issue, and we'll see them play out in the coming days and weeks. Now, Trump's view that everyone is stupid and disloyal to him, and that if only he were squatter, none of this would be happening, which he'd be wrong on, it isn't what any serious person would believe. This is about as childish and ignorant as you can fucking get, and that man will almost most certainly be the Republican nominee for squatter in next year's election anyway. If he went out and grabbed someone off the street to discuss the horrific events of the last week, it's hard to imagine that they could sound less informed than this once and possibly future squatter. So yeah, of course, and like I said, Trump embarrasses us every fucking day. That's not unusual. Like, there's not a day that goes by where he doesn't embarrass us in one way or another. So, but if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. If you want to support my work, you can also leave a comment, let me know what you think. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just a little as a few bucks a video or a month, your donation can help go a long way. And thanks for listening.